First of all, I'll start by saying this is a debate rigged in favor of opposing the motion. Because all the eminent people are here, and we're all young people here. I begin by saying that we have a hallowed principle called equality before the law. And Article 370 is an abrogation of that. It was introduced as a temporary measure, and the Constitution has an extraordinary article called Article 370, which title is Temporary Provision for the State of Jammu and Kashmir, and does not require the vote of Parliament to abrogate it. The amending power under Article 368 specifies the method by which a constitutional article can be deleted. But there's an exception made for Article 370 because it was perceived as something which is going to last a very short time. It was introduced at the urging of Jawaharlal Nehru. It was not a part of the conditions under which Jammu Kashmir merged into India. Jammu Kashmir merged into India when the king signed the instrument of accession, like 500 other kings who signed the instrument of accession to merge into India. And the instrument of accession had no clause for any special provisions like Article 370. And furthermore, the instrument of accession, as it was originally formulated in the 1935 Constitution, did not require the king to ask the permission of the people or take a plebiscite of the people in order to merge. And finally, once he signs, it became final, irrevocable, and it could not be demerged. No question of any demerger. On that principle, it was merged. But Jawaharlal Nehru, very often, he never listened to anybody, but occasionally he listened to Edwin Mountbatten, and on that basis, he went to the United Nations. And he said that till this United Nations matter is over, it will be over very shortly, this should be introduced, and it was brought in the late 1949, almost just before the Constituent Assembly concluded its provisions. Ambedkar, who was piloting all the bills, declined to move the bill, or the amendment. He said, I am not a traitor. I will not move this. So Sardar Patel was requested by Nehru that I have to suddenly go to London. He said for the Commonwealth meeting, but I know what he went for, and I won't state it here. And he said that please do something about it. So Sardar Patel asked Gopal Swamy Iyengar to move it. And after a huge uproarious debate, it was admitted, repeatedly stated, it is temporary, it will go very soon. And a Constituent Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir was set up. And so Article 370 says the President by a notification can abolish Article 370 subject to the concurrence of the Constituent Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir. Now there is no Constituent Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir because in 1954 it completed its work, and having completed its work, it said that Jammu and Kashmir is an inalienable part of India, and made no reference to Article 370 in it. So consequently, by the doctrine of necessity, I would say that all that is required today for abolishing it is the presidential notification, which means a resolution of the Cabinet of India, does not require, thankfully, the vote of Mr. Manish Tiwari and his friends, who are hell-bent on stopping Parliament from functioning. So at least on this issue, you don't need Parliament at all. So consequently, I'll say that since no other state has got this condition, and that it was supposed to be temporary, more than 70 years have almost 70 years have elapsed. And therefore, the country should be integrated once again as required under Article 14. All must be equal before the law. I would say that this article should be abrogated forthwith, and the whole of India should function under one law. Thank you very much.
I'm supporting the motion, no?
Opposing.
Opposing the motion,
Right.
please. Now, I'm always amused by whatever my friend says, and I'm one of his admirers. But the trouble is that he is not a lawyer, and nor has he read the documents. The Constitution of Jammu and Kashmir was not framed by the Constituent Assembly of India. It was framed by a separate Constituent Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir, which did its work from 1951 to 1956 and completed it.
54.
And no. It completed its work in 1956, and the Constitution came into force in 1957. Now please read the Constitution of Jammu and Kashmir. In the last chapter, I'm sorry I can't give you the number of the article in the Jammu and Kashmir Constitution. It is that Constituent Assembly which has adopted Article 370, and it becomes now a matter totally beyond the power of Indian Parliament or any executive authority in India to tinker with it, because the Constituent Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir has accepted Article 370, and I'm very happy that it has so happened, and we must all support the existence of this 370. It is now an totally irremovable portion of the Constitution of India by reason of its adoption expressly in an saving article in the Jammu and Kashmir Constitution, which is beyond the amending power of Parliament at all. So please, this article should not go, and this article serves a great purpose. It does not allow anybody to tinker with the kind of relationship that has been voluntarily established by the Jammu and Kashmir Constituent Assembly, so that today India is not to be treated as some kind of an occupying power. And I am surprised that the whole of the Indian government today or the last one which the recent government has displaced, both of them are so ignorant that they exactly don't know how to even talk to Pakistan about this problem. Thank you.
First of all, let me begin by saying that Mr. Jethmalani is wrong when he says that Article 370 exists in the J&K Constitution. Please ask him to name the clause at which I just been through the internet. Every clause, no reference. The only reference to the permanence of 370 arises in an agreement. I am telling you. Come on, I've seen it just now. Two, only reference ever made to the Article 370 being permanent was an agreement, it was only in the agreement or accord between Sheikh Abdullah and Indira Gandhi. And that is not a constitution. Maybe Manish Tiwari thinks that Indira Gandhi was the constitution and constitution was Indira Gandhi. First of all, this debate is framed, should Article 370 be abrogated? Firstly, if it can be done legally, we'll do it legally. But if it can't be done legally, then like Abraham Lincoln faced with the division of United States on constitutional principles, he said to hell with constitutional principles, sent the army and united the United States. So, is Kashmir a part of India? Of course, from centuries. All our holy shrines are in Kashmir. Is Kashmir, therefore, it is our duty to integrate it fully. Now, can it be done legally? I have already said so, that the only thing that exists today is Article 370, which is titled temporary measure. From hearing the speech on the other side, it appears that they have already decided whatever the Constitution may say, it is permanent because of a variety of compulsions that they point to. No country can be bound in compulsion when it comes to the identity of a nation. We believe in equality before law, and there's a constitutional principle that has to be established in Kashmir. When 500,000 Kashmiri Pandits were driven out, saying, get out, you're not a Kashmiri, of people who have been through generations and were there even before those who claim that they are today the owners of Kashmir. Even before they came, they were there. They were driven out, and in our own country they became refugees. Therefore, Article 370 died the day Kashmiri Pandits were driven out, and therefore to rectify that situation, we have to abrogate it, and if it can be done constitutionally, we'll do it constitutionally. If they want it by some other means, well, we are ready for it, because as in Hyderabad, when the Nizam became obstinate and the future of the country depended on Hyderabad being part of India, army was sent and taken over because of Sardar Patel and not because of Jawaharlal Nehru.
There's an express article in the last chapter of the Jammu and Kashmir Constitution, the third clause of which article expressly mentions 370 as being adopted by the Constituent Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir as a part of the Constitution. Name the clause. Bring the text here. Have you got a Constitution of Jammu and Kashmir?
Let's take the next question. I think the audience will be able to check that in the last chapter. You say it's in the, if you could just repeat.
Yeah, I believe it is Article 141.
It's in the last chapter. Right. Okay, we'll just take the next question. Thank you.
Let's have a bet.
Okay. Okay, the wager is on, but we'll just...
If I lose dinner anywhere in India, if he loses dinner anywhere in the world.
And let's make that a Wazwan in Kashmir then.
Can't we have a better bet than a mere dinner?
We have a question here, if you don't mind.
स्वामी सर, मैं ये पूछना चाहता हूँ, जब 370 आर्टिकल के बारे में बात करते हैं तो सिर्फ कश्मीर का मांग होता है, ठीक है? जम्मू के साथ कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं होता, जैसे कि बीजेपी अभी अपने
लद्दाख के साथ भी नहीं। जम्मू और लद्दाख तो समस्या है ही नहीं, परंतु ये कांग्रेस के ज़माने से प्राथमिकता दी जाती है सेक्युलरिज्म के लिए, इसके माने जिससे मुसलमान।
Can you just finish his question, then you can take over.
All right, what is his question?
सर तो
if he speaks in Hindi, I'll have to interrupt him, no?
Okay, I'll translate.
Acha, if he can't speak English, no problem.
No, I don't have any problem in English. I just want to focus.
Yeah, you speak in English because that's been how the thing has been conducted.
Sir, when we talk about Article 370, then all our people are focusing, we want Kashmir. Kashmir, where is Jammu? This means you are not going in a secular way dealing this problem. If you capture by amending or removing this Article 370, can you stop Kashmiri militants? Can you stop? I don't think so. You can never stop until and unless you get the sentiment of people over there. So,
all that is agreed about sentiment and so on. The issue is, first of all, let us decide that we want to get the whole of Kashmir as an integral part and an equal part of India. Now, I don't go into this question that if I have to cure cancer, I must first cure my flu or something like that, which is what Manish Tiwari is saying. First look at Nagaland and so on. These are all under control. I'll look after it afterwards. This is a major problem because it's a source of our terrorism in our country. So we've got to solve that problem. I have no difficulty in saying that Kashmir can never be separated from India, the part that we have today, because of the army. Second, I would also say that the part that is not with us but with Pakistan is also to be recovered because Parliament passed a resolution in 1994 by the then Prime Ministers moving it, namely Narasimha Rao. I don't know whether Manish Tiwari will own up to him because his leader has disowned him, wouldn't let his dead body also come to the AICC. So therefore, they may not have owned Narasimha Rao today. But the fact is that Parliament unanimously passed that resolution that we will not rest till the whole of Kashmir, including the part in possession of Pakistan, is restored to India. So we are committed that way. And so the question of Jammu and Ladakh, yes, since they are not creating any problems, so we are not paying attention to you. If you want the attention to be paid, you create problems and say we also want to go to Pakistan, then we will look after you. The issue is that.
The question is for Mr. Swamy.
Good morning, sir. So you being member of the ruling party of our nation, don't you think your government is scared of any kind of referendum happening in Kashmir?
Yeah. Last year the government was scared of doing anything about National Herald, but this year they're not scared.
Should I take a few?
So I predict that next year 370 will go.
My question relates to some of the arguments that you made throughout the latter two speeches. It's particularly related to practical issues like development, unemployment. A lot of the arguments were premised on the assumption that it is Article 370 that is stopping these efforts from reaching Jammu and Kashmir. But if we actually look at it, a lot of central institutions like the Election Commission, a lot of public investment projects like Mr. Modi's 70,000 crores and UPA 1's 30,000 crores, all of these projects are still reaching there. The only things that's stopping them is a ratification by the state government. So in spite of whether or not 370 is existing or not, development can reach subject to ratification by the state government. In this scenario, given that development can happen, given already the kind of skepticism that exists in the local population with regard to government intervention because of election rigging, because of a lot of their trust being taken away, isn't Article 370 remaining as a buffer to autonomy before said development takes place an important trade-off to make?
Yeah, Dr. Swamy.
Well, see, first of all, I'll start with what Ambedkar said. He said, I am not a traitor. I will not move this bill, this amendment seeking to introduce Article 370. Now, the essence of that is that we don't measure the integrity, sovereignty, unity, identity of India in terms of what is economically good and what is economically bad. That comes secondary. First and foremost, you must have your identity intact. And here, it is abhorrent to all Indians, that I know majority, overwhelming majority of Indians, that there should be two constitutions in this country. Until 1975, there were two prime ministers in this country, one in Kashmir and one in Delhi. And therefore, we want this unity of India process to be completed, and Article 370 being a temporary provision. On that assurance, it was passed in the Constituent Assembly, otherwise it wouldn't have passed at all. That must go, whether it's economically better or economically worse for the state of Kashmir. I don't believe that economics is dependent on any of these things, as the sanctions that the Americans have put on so many countries has gone completely against whatever they are intended to do. So it's not a sanction, it is not something that protects you against some invasion from India. As Jawaharlal Nehru once loosely said that it will be invaded by Marwadis in Kashmir if you don't have Article 370. It's got nothing to do with that. If at all anything has happened, it is 500,000 Kashmiri Pandits have been driven out because of Article 370, and we have not been able to do anything about it. So we want it as an emotional principle, and the economics of it we can take care of afterwards.
You could just get some clarity on the bet between you and Dr. Swamy.
Now, Dr. Swamy, as a layperson, is not a lawyer. He has the full freedom to say whatever he likes about law, which he doesn't understand anyhow. Now here is Article 147 in the Constitution of Jammu and Kashmir, which is passed by the Constituent Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir, and it came into force in 1957. It talks of the power of amendment of the Constitution of Jammu and Kashmir in 147, but it adds a proviso, provided further that no bill or amendment seeking to make any change in the following will ever be moved, that the provisions of the Constitution of India as applicable in relation to the state. 370 is a provision in the Constitution of India applicable to the state of Jammu and Kashmir, that the Constituent Assembly and Parliament of Jammu and Kashmir will not even move an amendment ever.
Thank
Now,
you. I think Dr. Swamy has something to say. Yeah, you could just take the mic.
But-
You don't have to get up.
And
Miss.
I will, even law students will agree, and they are already agree, because they agreed that it can't be amended at all. But
Well,
but
since
you
you're their
think what
teacher, they
can
wouldn't
be
dare.
May I
Just a sec.
No,
Can I-
may I just supplement?
Sure,
may I just
sure.
supplement the corresponding provision?
Yeah, after
of
Dr.
Article-
Swamy can take
May I
over.
just supplement? Then Dr. Swamy can reply. May I just supplement the corresponding provision in Article 370 of the Constitution of India that says, notwithstanding anything in the foregoing provision of this article, the President may, by public notification, declare that this article shall cease to be operative or shall be operative only with such exceptions and modifications from such date as he may specify, provided that the recommendation of the Constituent Assembly of the state referred to in clause 2 shall be necessary before the President issues a notification. And there's a specific bar in the Jammu and Kashmir Constitution that you cannot even move an amendment to an article of the Indian Constitution which is applicable to Jammu and Kashmir. I hope the two of them clarify the situation.
First of all,
Just a sec, ma'am. Dr.
First of
Swamy.
all, there is nothing specific about Article 370 in that. That part at least is. Now it's a question of interpretation. This is not a constitutional amendment. It is a way of terminating Article 370. If there is a constitutional amendment, it would be from via Article 368. So there is a question of interpretation. Mr. Jethmalani is a bad loser, and he has standards which are very difficult to understand sometimes. For instance, he's a great crusader against corruption. I am with him on that, in the black money, etc. But as soon as the corruption is established, then he will go and defend the accused in the court.
Okay, speaking of in favor and against, I'd like to thank all the speakers for a wonderfully lively debate. I have some results here. We did conduct a poll before the debate started. The proposition being, this House will abrogate Article 370 of the Constitution of India. Before the debate, out of the 120 people present in the hall, 84 were for the proposition and 36 against. So that means 84 supported the abrogation of Article 370. After the debate, the number for the proposition increased to 91. And so I guess the younger side was more persuasive, or another one, someone else may want to say it is the side that is more easy to convince.